How are we doing today?
Great!
Is everybody having a good morning?
Yes.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that. Does anybody know where we're going today? One person. The rest of us just jumped onto a random boat. No idea where it's going, looking for a good time?
Yeah.
Well, I respect the adventurous spirit, folks. Well, we are going to Spirit Island. You were correct. We will spend 35 minutes going 14 kilometers or 9 miles down this beautiful lake. We will arrive at Spirit Island, where we will get off the boat and spend 15 minutes looking around, taking pictures, appreciating the gorgeous views. And then we'll spend another 35 minutes heading right back to where we started, here at the docks. Does that sound good with everybody?
Yes, sir.
I'm happy we're all on the same page, because if you didn't want to come, it's a long and cold swim back to the docks, and our captain is not turning around at this point. Anyways, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Michael. I will be your tour guide today. I introduced myself first, but I am the least important person on this vessel. Each and every one of you is more important than me. If you have any questions, any comments, or any concerns at any time, please raise your hand and I'd love to address that for you. There is, however, one person on this boat who is more important than myself and all of you. Can we guess who that is? It's actually this child right here. It is actually our Captain Jack. Let's give it up for our Captain Jack, guys. Woo! Our Captain Jack is excellent. Don't tell any captains that I told you guys this, but he's the best captain in the Rockies. He's very safe, very excellent, very handsome, and Transport Canada certified, folks. And I mentioned something. I mentioned that he's very safe. Our captain is so safe that he wears a life jacket when he's taking a shower, guys. And so on his behalf, I'm going to give you guys a quick safety speech. If you look underneath your seats, you'll see a big orange life jacket. Looks like some of you don't trust me, but I promise you they're down there. Children life jackets are also located here at the front. If they were ever necessary during an emergency, we would put those on, but only under the instruction of our Captain Jack, and never inside the boat, because that is very unsafe. If you do not know how to put your life jacket on, right beside you on the wall, there is a diagram explaining how to do so. I'm not sure if you guys noticed as you were boarding the ship, but there was also a white canister on the back deck. Kind of looks like a giant Tic Tac. That contains our life raft. Our water is very cold. It is glacially fed, and the core temperature stays about 4 degrees Celsius, so we don't want to go swimming in that. So if there were ever an emergency, I would kick that life raft off, and we would go from boat to life raft to shore in a dry evacuation. We also have a muster station. That's where we gather in case of emergencies. That is our back deck. Our back deck is also a viewing area. If you want to go back there, appreciate the fresh air, escape my annoying voice, you can do that at any point during the tour, as long as we're not docking. Just make sure that we're keeping it to 6 people at a time, though, just for safety reasons. We don't want this boat to look up too much, so we'll keep it to 6 people at a time back there, and make sure that you're always standing, just so that I'm able to see you. Our Captain Jack will also periodically be slowing down and speeding up for the smaller vessels on the water. There are lots of kayaks, lots of canoes, and we do not want to send them in the water. It's cold for them just like it is for us, and so he will slow down for them, just to cut our wake behind us. So when that happens, there'll be a slowdown and speed up. However, when we cross our sister vessels, the ones who look just like us, we're not going to do the same thing. We're going to go full speed, and there's going to be a little bump and splash. So when that happens, just make sure that if you have any phones, any cameras, anything sticking out of the windows, that you just pull it back in, because we don't want to drop that into the lake. However, if you do drop it into the lake, we have a procedure for that. Just raise your hand. I'll come over to you and just tell me what happened, and then I'll raise my hand as well. Our captain will raise his hand too, and we'll all just wave that goodbye. There is no way to recover anything that falls into the lake. I'm a tour guide, I'm not a scuba diver, so please be very cautious and try not to drop anything. With that being said, that should be everything for safety. Is everybody feeling very safe?
Yeah!
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Are you happy, Captain? Perfect, perfect. If everyone's satisfied, then I'm happy. I'm going to put the mic down for a moment and let you guys settle in. But if there's any questions at this point, please put your hand up and I'd love to answer it for you. Thank you. The back deck is now open for anyone that wants to use it.
We can go up there and come back. I'm just trying to figure out, I don't know how to.
We have now exited Old Bay, and we are picking up speed. Can everyone still hear me clearly?
Yes.
Alright. Are there any questions at this point? Yes, sir.
How deep is the lake?
Great question, sir. How deep is the lake is a common question that we get here. The lake's depth varies obviously from place to place. On average, it's about 40 meters or about 130 feet deep. But at its deepest point, this lake is actually 97 meters or 320 about feet deep. That's very, very deep. That's deeper than the Statue of Liberty, the one in New York that goes like this. Do we all know that? That's deeper than she is tall. So if we put her at the deepest point, we could go right over her and we would not even feel a thing. Now folks, the deepest end of the lake is where we're headed, towards the south end of the lake. And this entire kind of area, this valley that the lake sits in now, was carved out by massive glaciers. There was multiple ice ages that have happened, and there was points where there was 2,000 meters of ice sitting in this valley. This ice flows through, basically like a construction worker, cutting up everything around it and forming the mountains and the valleys that we see today. So this lake here was carved out by a glacier, but this end of the lake actually has a unique formation story. If we look around on the shores, we can notice like nice big boulders. Do we all see the big boulders on the shores? On the left and the right. These big boulders are actually the result of a giant landslide that happened a long time ago. If we look to our left, you'll notice a large green hill. Do we all see that hill? That hill actually is a giant boulder. It used to sit on top of that large ridge behind it. There's kind of a linear ridge mountain right above that green hill, and that's called Sinking Ship Ridge. And that huge boulder right there used to sit on top of it, but after years of erosion and wear, and obviously just cracking up from the glaciers, this massive boulder fell and sent huge smaller boulders scattering across the entire valley. Now right now underneath our boat, very far underneath our boat, there are boulders the size of houses and cars. And this landslide was so powerful that it sent rocks all the way across to the other side of the valley, which is why we see these large boulders over here. And it actually dammed up the lake and kind of led to the formation of what we have today. So rock slides are a common natural disaster that we have here in the Rockies. There's also a number of other ones that we experience. Can everybody look to the right? Do we see that patch of dead trees right there? Can anyone tell me what might have caused that? I heard some people say fire. That is correct. It was a wildfire. Now can anyone tell me when this wildfire happened? Last year, I heard? Last year is a common guess that we get. And wave crossing, by the way, folks. But this wildfire is actually much older than that. This wildfire happened 22 years ago, in 2003. Despite it happening such a long time ago, you'll notice that the small trees growing back are less than half the height of the original trees. That's because the trees here grow very slowly. Our climate is very cold, and we're a lot higher up in elevation than Jasper. As you guys are driving up the Maligne Lake Road, you actually would have been gaining elevation the entire time. Maligne Lake is about 600 meters, or 2,000 feet higher up than Jasper does, and because of that, we experience much colder temperatures. These cold temperatures mean that these trees are only able to grow for about 4 to 6 weeks out of the year. The rest of the year, they're all the same size, they're not growing. And because of that slow growth rate, it will take about 100 years before that patch of forest looks like the rest of the forest around it. Now, that might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually a great thing. The forest here needs fire in order to kind of regenerate. It kind of relies on fire. A lot of the plants around us are actually fire successional, which means means that they only regenerate when a fire happens. There's these trees called one-pole pine trees, which have a resin that seals their pine cones, and that resin only melts and opens up when a fire happens, and so only then are their seeds able to get into the earth and grow into trees. So this forest really needs fire, and it's a good thing, but obviously the frequency and severity of the fires that we've been experiencing has been alarming. I'm sure many of you guys saw the 2024 Jasper wildfires. You were coming up here. Yes, that was a very severe wildfire. It burned about 33,000 hectares of the park, which is a lot of land, but in reality it's only about 3% of the national park, which gives you an idea of how massive this park is. On top of that, about a third of the structures in town were lost, including many people's homes. And so I just encourage you guys to exercise caution when talking with any locals about the fire, because a lot of people lost a lot of things, and so some people are very obviously traumatized by that event. But if you have any questions, you can refer to Parks Canada. Their website has lots of information about it, or you can ask me. Now, wildfires are just one natural disaster that we encounter out here. I mean, besides the rock slides that I've talked about, we also have avalanches, lots of other things, extreme weather. And I mentioned earlier that it gets super, super cold up here. The coldest ever recorded temperature at this lake was negative 56 degrees Celsius. That's about negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
No way.
That's unbelievably cold. So cold that we actually believe that humans never permanently lived in this area. It would just be way too cold for people to stay around here. Now, given those cold temperatures, a lot of people ask if the lake freezes over. Hands up if you think the lake freezes over in the wintertime. Hands up if you think it stays melted in the wintertime. Hands up if you hate playing the hands up game. Alright, I won't play it again. This is Northern Canada, folks. In the wintertime, everything freezes here. I freeze, our captain freezes, and this lake freezes, edge to edge, tip to tip, about 1 meter or 3 feet in thickness of ice. Now, many people also ask if you're able to skate on this lake. You'd have to like shoveling much more than you like skating to do that, because on top of that 1 meter or 3 feet of ice, there's 2 to 3 meters or 6 to 9 feet of snow. So in the winter, you'd hardly be able to recognize this area. It would look like a giant white field. You might not even be able to know that it was a lake. Now, as I said, it gets so unbearably cold that humans never permanently lived around here. But there were humans that would come up here to visit this area. Now, these people would have been the indigenous people. Now, on that note, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of many different First Nation and Métis groups. If we just look around where we're at right now, if we look at the water, if we look at the trees, and if we look at the mountains and just, appreciate how beautiful it is, it's hard to imagine that humans have lived here for thousands of years, and yet there's evidence of the indigenous here 8,000 years ago. And so, as the people on this land today, we should bear that same responsibility of stewardship, keep it looking beautiful, and keep it looking nice so that future generations can enjoy it, just like we're enjoying it today, and just like the indigenous people kept it. But there were many indigenous groups, as I said. One that we know a lot about would be the Stoney people, just because we do lots of workshops with them. The Stoney, or Ayetka in their language, would come up here for a number of reasons. They'd come up because they believe this water has healing properties, so they'd collect the plants around here. They actually call this lake Ome-Iwa, which means lake of deep and healing waters. So they'd come here to collect plants in the water to make medicine. They'd also come here to do a number of ceremonies that I'll talk about later. And they came here to hunt animals. Now, I'm not sure if any of you guys saw any animals on the drive up here. Did anybody see any animals? The time? Yeah. What did we see? A deer. Nice. There's lots of mule deer here. There's lots of white-tailed deer. Did anybody see any elk during their time in Jasper? Some of us? Elk? You as well? A number of us? Any moose? No moose? Well, there's lots of moose in this habitat as well. Hopefully on the drive back you guys will be able to see some. In these mountains we also have bighorn sheep and mountain goats. And of course there's bears. We have grizzly bears and black bears. I'm not sure if anybody saw any bears. Some of us did. Lovely, lovely. Well, the indigenous would have come up to hunt many of these animals. They also would have come up here to hunt beavers. Now if you look around, you're probably not going to see any beavers. That's because there was a fur trade. Many of the beavers were hunted and their populations are much lower now. But there actually were so many beavers here in the past that the indigenous called this lake besides Ome-Iwa, they also called it Taba Inde, which means Great Beaver Lake. Now folks, another way crossing. That folks is the biggest roller coaster that we have in the Rockies. So next time you can put your hands up and scream if you want. Up to you. Now as I was saying, indigenous would have come up here to find all those animals that lived around here. And they would not have taken the road that we took up to get here. This place is very remote, and many of the kind of nice things that we have now that make it more accessible are very recent additions. The road coming up here was only paved in 1969, and obviously these cruises have not been happening for much longer. They only started in the 1920s. Back in time, the indigenous would have taken a different route to come. If we look to our right, we'll see a green hill right beside us, a little bit ahead. We will see that hill. Just a little bit ahead of us to the right, covered in trees. That's called the Maligne Path. If you go over that and go into a valley, that's called the Maligne Path. And if you walk 56 kilometers or 35 miles down the Maligne Path, you'll end up at the Icefield Parkway. Do we know what the Icefield Parkway is? That's the highway that connects Jasper to Banff and Lake Louise. So they would have stayed down there in the valley where it was a bit more hospitable, and they'd come up here for the different things that I mentioned earlier. Much like us, they really valued this place. They found it very beautiful and very special, and they took long, difficult journeys to come up. So it's quite incredible to think that despite how remote and rugged this place is, there's been different human history that still forged itself along these shores. I will now put the mic down. I know I've been rambling for a while. Yes, question?
What makes the water appear more like green and like turquoise?
That is a great question. It will become more and more clear that the water is kind of blue-green as we go further down the lake. So right now it is getting a bit more green, but as we go further into the lake, it'll become more pronounced, and that's actually due to our glaciers. We're going to see some glaciers in a moment. I'll point them out when they are visible. But these glaciers are actually not standstill. Glaciers in general are actually always moving. And as they move, lubricated by the water that melts and is underneath them, they slide on the rock. And they're so powerful and heavy that they actually grind up this rock, just like a flour mill. They kind of grind it into a rock flour, actually. That's what it's called. And it's so fine, it's about the texture of baking soda. Now, that rock flour kind of gets brought into the water of the rivers, and it stays suspended in the water column. It doesn't sink because it's so fine. And that rock flour actually refracts blue-green light and gives us the beautiful color of the lake that we see. Now, there's not many glaciers in this area. Well, there's not any glaciers in this area. They're predominantly towards the south end of the lake where we're going. So once we get into more glacial territory, the color of the water will become more vibrant. Any other questions? Yes.
Is it able to drink?
Is it able to drink this water? Technically, we don't suggest that we drink the water because lots of animals use this lake as a washroom or a bathtub, so it's not advisable. Obviously, we have these boats on it as well. But there's actually an interesting thing about glacial water. This rock flour that I just talked about, it makes this color of the water very beautiful, but it also does something else. If you drink large amounts of this water, that rock flour actually acts as a natural digestive system cleanser or a laxative. So if we drink a lot of this water, we'll need to use the washroom. And we don't have any washrooms on this boat, so please folks, no drinking any water at Spirit Island. Any other questions? Great questions, by the way. Alright, no worries. If there's no questions, I'll give you guys a quick break from my voice and then start talking again. If there are any questions while I'm just up here, please put your hand up and I'll come up and answer for you. Thank you. discover this area. There is a Western explorer credited medically for putting this place on a map. And they're actually very unique because it was a woman who did it. Her name was Mary Schaefer. Mary Schaefer was an American woman. She was born in the 1800s in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And in the late 1800s, herself and her husband Charles used to come to Banff and Lake Louise. There were trains, there were railways back then, and they were already very popular tourist destinations. So Mary and Charles would go up there, stay near the railroad. Charles was making a book about the different flowers there, and Mary was illustrating it. So they would do this, and they did this for a number of years. Now, unfortunately, in the early 1900s, in the year of 1903, Mary Schaefer tragically lost her husband Charles. And within 6 months of losing her husband, she also lost her mother and her father. So this was a heavy time of grief for Mary Schaefer, and she stayed at home for a while. She went through that grieving process. But she decided that she wanted to find peace, and she wasn't finding it in the area that she was at. So she wanted to come back to the Canadian Rockies and take up backcountry exploring in hopes that that would give her some relief. And so she did this, and she fell in love with it. This was very atypical for a woman back then. Mary Schaefer was wearing pants in the backcountry as it was very uncomfortable to wear a dress. And this was so embarrassing to her that she used to paint over her pant with the dress whenever she took a picture. She'd paint over the image with her pants with a dress. So this was very backcountry exploring for a woman, and everything that she was doing was very unique. But she really loved it. She explored the backcountry. She met with many different people, and she actually met with some indigenous people. These indigenous people told her about a lake called Chaba-Ymne. I'm not sure if anybody remembers that name, but they told her that it was a beautiful lake. Yes, it is this lake. A beautiful lake, blue-green waters, surrounded by mountains, a 360 view. So she decided that she wanted to try to find it. So she gathered herself, her best friend Molly Adams, and 2 tour guides, Billy Warren and Sid Unwin. And they got 22 horses and started their journey in Lake Louise, which is about a 3-hour drive from here. Now imagine, guys, there was no trails back then, no roads. It was just straight backcountry wandering. And they went off. They traveled for months, and they made it quite far. They actually got very close to this lake. Just towards our south, there's a big ice field called the Brazil Ice Field. They were stopped by those ice fields, as well as the early winter, and so they were forced to come back. So their first expedition was not successful. But on the way back, Mary Schaefer bumped into an old friend named Samson Beaver. Samson Beaver had actually been to this lake as a child. And so when she told him about her mission, he told her that he could help her and provide her with a map. After some convincing though. So he provided Mary with a map. Wave crossing, by the way. Now it's quite incredible that Samson was able to provide Mary with a map, because he had not been here in many years. He'd only come as a child, and he was now a grown man. But he made this map, and even though it is very impressive, I'm going to show you guys this map. Maybe I'm just spoiled. I kind of need Google Maps to get anywhere, but let me know if you think you'd be able to make it with this map I'm going to show you. Couldn't see the lake. They did not realize how close they were. And one of their guides, Sid Unwin, was very tired of the journey. So at 2 in the morning, he decided that he would climb the nearest mountain And if you could see the lake from the top of the mountain, they would go. But if not, they just give up and go back home. So if you look to your right now, you'll notice a mountain. That is the mountain that Sid Unwin climbed. He came all the way to the top of it. He looked down, and guess what he saw when he looked? He saw this lake, guys. He saw Maligne Lake. He took a picture of it. He climbed back down, and he showed his group, and they were ecstatic. They finished the Maligne Lake pass. The Maligne Pass. They came here. They built a raft, paddled up and down the entire lake, and said it was the most beautiful place they had seen in the Canadian Rockies. Now, the Canadian Geological Survey did not have much information about this area, so in 1911 they tasked Mary Schaefer with leading an expedition to name all of the features around us. So she reluctantly agreed. She had initially just come here just to discover it for herself, kind of trying to find peace. And she didn't want this place to become a popular, place with buildings all around it. She wanted it to remain beautiful and natural and pristine and almost hidden. But she agreed to do it, and she came here, and she named all the mountains that we see around us and the lake as well. If we look to our left, you'll notice a big gray mountain. We all see that mountain? Hard to miss. It's called Mount Samson, named after Samson Beaver, the man who provided her with the map. Now I just want to remind you guys that this was in 1911, before women could vote in Canada. And this is a woman coming from the US into Canada, naming mountains after indigenous people, which never really happened at the time. Back then people would name things after themselves, politicians, royalty, to gain influence. But Mary Schaefer was very, very humble. She named nothing after herself. If I was the one to discover this place, we might be on Michael Lake today. Beside us is Michael Mountain and Michael Peak. And if I was feeling generous, I might name that little rock over there, Jack Rock. But Mary Schaefer was not like me. She was very humble, and she named everything after other people, the people who helped her during the journey. Mary Schaefer named not only the mountains and the lake, she also named the glaciers around here. And there's one starting to come into view right now. If you look at Mount Samson and follow its shoulder down, there's a valley back there. Does everyone see that valley? On the valley, you can kind of see one of the on the mountain in the valley, in one of the valleys of that mountain, we can see a kind of bluish gray piece of ice flowing down the valley. Do we see that? That's actually the Maligne Glacier. It's very far away and we're seeing only a small part of it, but it's actually the second largest of 5 glaciers that feed this lake. Right now we're only seeing a small portion, as I said. People who have climbed up Mount Samson have looked down at the glacier and said that it kind of looks like a hand draped over the mountain, and right now we're only seeing a small portion of one of its fingers. We're seeing it with its tip of its pinky finger.
Right,
named creatively because it sits between Mount Charlton and Mount Unwin. This glacier is actually the smallest glacier that feeds this lake, but it is the closest that we get to a glacier, so it's quite an incredible view. Now glaciers, many of the glaciers in the Rockies are receding. Charlton Unwin is an example of one of these receding glaciers. The exact rate of recession isn't known, just because there haven't been scientists to come up here and investigate it. But many of our senior boat captains can remember when it looked a lot larger. And I actually have a picture from 1908 of when this glacier was substantially larger. So if anyone's interested in seeing that, I can bring the picture. You can just put your hand up and I'll bring the picture to you. But yes, this glacier is receding. Glaciers do naturally go through cycles of recession and growth. Right now we are in a cycle of recession, and that is normal, but the rate of recession is very fast, which is concerning. And as I was saying, these glaciers are responsible for a lot of the features that we have in the lake. We talked about the color of the lake, that's because of the glaciers. The washroom situation with water, because of the glaciers as well. It's also the reason that the banks of this lake are kind of getting narrow. You'll notice that the banks are coming closer together. That's because these lakes bring up the sediment that builds up on the banks of these rivers and creates these wide, flat areas called alluvial bands. These places make for great camping. So look to our left. You can actually see a campsite. I don't know if you can see, there's some little boats over there. It's actually one of the 3 backcountry campsites here. The only places that you're allowed to stay. This one's called Fisherman's Bay. It's past Hidden Cove already. You couldn't see it because it's hidden, as the name suggests. And there's also 4 night creeks all the way at the end of the lake, further than we can go today. Guys, folks, our Captain Jack has done it again. Let's give him a round of applause, guys.
Woo! Captain Jack! Yeah!
He has delivered us 14 kilometers or 9 miles down this lake to the one, the only, the world famous Spirit Island on our left side. Ooh. It is just this little piece of land right here. Pretty underwhelming to many people, but it's a very special piece of little land. There is a land bridge connecting it to the main land right now. That's just because the water levels are kind of low. So it technically is Spirit Peninsula, but that doesn't sound as cool, so we just call it Spirit Island. You'll also see signs on it. They tell us not to walk on Spirit Island. It is very sacred land to the Stoney people. and I'll talk more about that as well as the ceremonies on the way back. So we cannot walk on it. But if you keep looking at Spirit Island, you'll miss out on the view on the right side. This view is the Hall of the Gods. Mary Schaefer called this the Hall of the Gods because she said if every god was to meet in one place, they'd meet right here in Jasper National Park, on the south end of Maligne Lake, with each of them having a throne to sit on top of each mountain. Now folks, we will be docking shortly. I'm going to ask everyone to be seated for the docking, and I'm going to call everyone from the back deck. Folks, I once again will ask that everyone stay seated for the docking process. We will have 15 minutes at Spirit Island. That is 5 minutes. After 15 minutes has passed, our Captain Jack will blast the boat horn. Sounds like a boat horn. So when you hear that sound, make your way back to the boat. Make sure you're on the Curly Phillips with Michael and Jack. There's also a little path you can walk on. It takes about 5 minutes to walk. Start to where it ends, ends where it starts. If you get lost on it, folks, congratulations. You're the first one to ever do it. With that being said, enjoy your time, and I hope you all have a great time. Thank you.
I don't even know where we can. But you're allowed that, right? That's cold. So cold.
Maligne. Geef een stukje.
We hadden maar heel kort tijd.
Maar dit zijn toch ook onze mensen allemaal, hè? Dan ga ik je wel eventjes stil. 안돼 안돼 안 가.
아빠 가지 말라고 하지.
알았어 우리 좀 이따 갈게. 불법 안 할 거야 우리.
아빠 가지 말라고 하는데 내 운동이도 안 가.
Play your blisters now. That was a bit ago. It got so bad. It's fine. It doesn't hurt. Oh yeah.
Everybody, welcome back to the Curly Phillips. Glad that nobody got lost. How was our time? Did you all enjoy?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. It's such a beautiful day today. The last few days have been very rainy. We were trying to convince people there were mountains. They didn't believe us. We were telling them there's mountains here. They said no, there's not. But today there's no convincing needed. You can look around and see the beautiful views. Anyways, I did say that I'd explain why Spirit Island is a sacred place to the Stoney people on the way back. If we all look to the left, you'll notice a mountain that kind of looks like a thumbs up. Do we all see that mountain that looks like a thumbs up?
Yeah.
If you look directly to the right of that mountain, you'll see another one a bit further back. And if you look at the like kind of like the top side of that mountain, kind of looks like a man looking into the sky like that. Do we see that? Some of us see it.
Yes.
Yes. That's called Mount Monkhead. And the Stoney people, the indigenous from this area, believe that whenever there was a face in a mountain, that was a symbol of their ancestors. And because Mount Monkhead faces directly to Spirit Island, and also because Spirit Island is surrounded by the deep and healing waters of Maligne Lake, the Stoney people believe that this was a special place, and they actually called Spirit Island Thane Makroche, which means sacred place. So they've come here specifically for a number of reasons. They come to do ceremonies, such as coming of age ceremonies, peace pipe ceremonies, and healing ceremonies. And they did this for a very, very long time, hundreds or even thousands of years. But that tradition, that practice is interrupted. Now when Mary Schaefer came here, she observed how beautiful it was, and thankfully it looks almost exactly as it does when Mary Schaefer came here. So we can appreciate that same beauty that she saw. And she decided that she didn't want it, well she thought that she did not want it to be ruined. She didn't want lakefront houses along the shores. She did not want a Starbucks on Spirit Island. She didn't want this place to become almost ruined by industrialization. So she lobbied the government to include this place in the national park. And that lobby was successful. This place was eventually included into Jasper National Park, which is where we are today. But one of the consequences of that, which Mary Schaefer did not expect, was that every person who lived in the vicinity, in the boundaries of the park, was forcibly removed. So we had many different First Nations groups here. We had the Stoney's that I've been talking about. We also had the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Shuswap, the Dene, many Métis groups, and other First Nation groups that would come in and out of this area. So all of these people were forced to get out of Jasper and go wherever. They moved out into different reserves or nearby cities. And because of that, the Stoney people were not able to come back to Spirit Island to perform their ceremonies for over 100 years. Now that changed in like 2015, 2016. Weight crossing, by the way. little way crossing. But that changed, specifically in 2016, but because of what happened in 2015. Now, as you guys were driving up here, you passed Medicine Lake. Did we all see Medicine Lake? Medicine Lake would have been to the right of you as you were driving up the Maligne Lake Road. On the way back down, it'll be on the left. It's a big lake, hard to miss. Now, Medicine Lake, around it, you would have noticed a lot of dead trees. Did we see that? That would have been from a wildfire. That was the 2015 Excelsior wildfire, unrelated to the one that I talked about earlier, also unrelated from the Jasper wildfire. But that wildfire was very, very hot. At the time, it was one of the worst. It was a class 6 out of 6. Now, that scale has been changed and there's been a class 7 added. And the 2024 Jasper wildfire was a class 7. But at the time, this was the worst severity a wildfire could be. It was so hot that when water bombers came to kind of try and put the fire out, the water that they were dropping would evaporate before it could even reach the flames. So it was very, very hot. Now, the Stoney people saw this fire happening in their traditional land, and they were touched. They felt that the land needed healing and that it was calling them back. And so in 2016, they reached out to us, and they came back on one of these boat cruises for the first time in over 100 years to perform a healing ceremony on Spirit Island. And now they return every year. They go to Spirit Island to do a healing ceremony. They actually came back about 3-4 weeks ago to perform the ceremony on the island this year. And it's incredible. And actually during those ceremonies, some of our senior boat captains are invited to join, and they're able to share so much knowledge. The Stonies share so much knowledge with us, and we're able to share that with you guys. Before this relationship was built, we had very little idea about the significance of Spirit Island to these Stony people. So it's incredible that we're able to gain that knowledge and that they're able to continue their practices. And it's a shame that it took so long and that they had to reach out to us for that to happen. But there is one word that I want to teach everyone here from the Stony language. It's quite meaningful that we're able to learn words from the Stony language because at one point it almost went extinct. But I will teach you this word. It's their word to express gratitude. The Stonies believed everything had a spirit, the water, the trees, the mountains, and they said thank you to everything. They said thank you for the water, for the safe passage. They said thank you to the animals for the flesh they provided for food, and for the hides they had provided for clothing. And so I want to teach you guys the word for thank you in the Stony language. That word is ish ni ish. Or altogether, ish ni ish. And so, on behalf of myself and our Captain Jack, I'd like to say ish ni ish to all of you guys for coming today. We really appreciate you guys here being here. Ish ni ish for your attention. You guys were a great group, and I really appreciate that. And ish ni ish for respecting the wishes of the Stonies and not going onto Spirit Island. Now, I will be putting the mic down for most of the way back. I'll come around and talk to you guys individually, and I will talk a little bit towards the end of the cruise. But that's most of it. So thanks so much, folks. Ish ni ish, and I hope you enjoy the cruise back.
Ish ni ish. Woo! No, never. This is the longest it's ever been. Yeah. No. It's too no, I think it's just time. Like maybe like last year when I first time in Canada. I guess last year I kind of did all of for big numbers and like put all the rest of the time myself, like maybe like a week into it. But it's way more active, so maybe in like a year or two it'll look better. But it's still pretty bad. The bottom's a little bit
How are you doing?
great.
Any questions? No questions? Are you guys also from the single game?
Just
Oh, okay. So and next? First time in Canada for you as well?
First time.
Enjoy it?
Enjoying it, yeah.
Awesome.
Actually, I want to see a bear, but I'm also not sure if I really want to see a bear.
See, it's nice to see a bear in the car. It's not nice to see a bear when you're walking. Not nice at all. But on the drive back, it's like luck really. But sometimes there's like this road. The road between here and Jasper has a lot of wildlife, and you'll know because there'll be like 10, 15 cars pulled over to the side of the road. Usually it's for a bear or a moose. So.
Okay, I'll do that.
And if you notice, then just check with their seat. So just stay in your car. That's the most important thing. It was more common like last month. Now it's a bit less because as the season goes, they kind of move higher into the mountains. But I still like. I usually hear from. I usually hear from my guests. Like ask them if there's anything. Some people have seen some today, so maybe on the way back down. Usually they're more active in the morning, like early morning, or like kind of later at night when the sun is like rising or setting. But it's random. Yeah. Usually you'll see them along the side of the road. Yeah. Because that's like it's hard for them to move in the forest to these events. The road is a little more open for them. Just walking there.
Alright, I'll keep a lookout.
Keep a lookout. Good luck. Thank you. Any questions? No questions? Enjoying your time? Thanks so much. Hello. How are you doing? Hello, little swimmers. Any questions? That I know of. Did you do the island? Anyway, I'm sorry. Amazing. We have now returned to home bay, which means that we have slowed down for the last time and that this cruise is coming to an end.
I have a lot of videos.
Aww. Let's try that again, guys. Aww. Much better, much better. But I will tell you guys one more story about a bear if you want to hear that.
Yes.
If we look to our right, you'll notice that there's a pointy mountain. Brown mountain, pointy. Do we see that? That's called Opal Peak. Opal Peak has meadows all around it that bears love to live in. There's lots of food for them to eat in those areas. And the area is like a common place to find bears. So there was one bear being tracked by Parks Canada a number of years ago, just because the bear was very underweight and they were concerned about this bear. So they had a collar on it, a radio collar, and one of the Parks Canada wardens was watching its movements, and he noticed that for a number of days the bear was not moving. And this is really concerning for bears. It was also late in the season when they need to get nice and big. They need to be eating a bunch of food because they need to survive hibernation. And they don't find food in the same place. They need to be moving around to find this food. So knowing that this bear was already underweight, the Parks Canada warden was super worried. So he decided to go up and check on the bear himself. So we hiked up, expecting to see the bear in bad condition. But to the contrary, the bear was thriving, having the best time of its life even. This bear was lying down on top of a dead moose. And bears are not capable of killing moose. This moose probably died fighting another moose, and this bear was just walking around one day and stumbled upon its carcass. It's basically the jackpot for a bear. So he laid down on top of this moose, ate, went to sleep, woke up, kept eating, went to sleep, woke up, and kept eating, much like our captain on his days off. And he did this for 2 weeks. He did not move off this bear for 2 weeks. Off this moose for 2 weeks, and he ate 700 pounds of this moose. Now, before this incident, the bear had been weighed at about 270 pounds. The following year, after hibernation, where bears lose about a third of their weight, the bear was weighed at over 450 pounds. So he's a big bear now, no longer those weight concerns. He's thriving, very attractive to all the female bears in the forest. So we like to say here that if you're ever feeling under the weather, ever having a bad time, if life's giving you lemons, maybe swap that lemon out for a moose, take a nap on it, eat up, and maybe you'll feel a bit better. Well, with that being said, folks, I do want to leave you with one last thing from the Stoney people. They were nomadic, so they moved around all the time. They did not have a fixed place to call home. Now, if I asked you guys where home is, you might mention a country, a city, maybe where your family lives, your address. But obviously the Stoney people did not have anything like this to call home. So they had a different concept for home. They believe that home is wherever the light is touching you, whether that's sunlight, starlight, or moonlight. So they believe they're always at home. So with that notion in mind, I'd like to welcome all of you guys to your beautiful home of Jasper National Park. I hope you treat it with the same respect and the same care as you would your own home. You pick up after yourself, treat others kindly, treat nature kindly, treat the wildlife kindly. Now, if you had a really good time today, maybe even a 5-star time, please feel free to leave a 5-star review. You can mention that you were with Michael and Jack, not Michael Jackson, Michael and Jack. If you had a really bad time, still leave that review. We appreciate the feedback and it helps us improve. But maybe you're with Tom and Jerry, or maybe Elvis and Presley. Now, if you wanted to leave any extra appreciation as you were leaving the boat, you could do so with our captain, Jack, but that's never expected. You guys make this job possible by coming here, and it's really the best job ever. So thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and Ishni Ish.
Yes.
Thank you, Michael.
One more time for Captain Jack.
Woo! Thank you, Jack.